Terrence Crawford says he is in no way looking past Felix Diaz, who he takes on next weekend, but his ultimate goal is to unify the light welterweight division by taking on Namibia's Julius Indongo. Terrence Crawford holds the WBC and WBO light welterweight world titles, and Julius Indongo holds the IBF and WBA. So this would be a fight for all the marbles, as people say in England. I think it's a good fight. It's a natural fight. It's the most logical fight. Bob Arum, Crawford's promoter, seems to be on board with the fight. He says, yeah, let's do it. Why not? Terrence Crawford wants it. He says, I'm going to quote Crawford briefly here. He says, I watched the fight. He's talking about Indongo's performance. He says, I watched the fight. He put on a great performance. He did everything he had to do to get the job done. He's tall and rangy. He can box. It'll be a good fight. So, yeah, let's see what happens here. Again, Terrence Crawford has got to get past Felix Diaz next weekend. And, you know, whenever people do look past certain opponents, whenever they plan too far ahead, that's when upsets can happen. So, you know, as long as that don't happen next weekend against Felix Diaz, then we could see Terrence Crawford versus Julius Indongo maybe later on this year in a big unification. I mean, Julius Indongo is a world champion, but he don't really have a big fan base. And because of that, he's the kind of guy that would be more willing to gamble as a new champion, because, you know, he will probably look at the paycheck he's being offered to fight Terrence Crawford and say, you know what, I'm not going to turn that down. I don't care how good Crawford is. This paycheck will change my life. This paycheck could change my family's life. So, you know, to hell with the belts, to hell with the prospect of losing the belts, I'm going to take that big paycheck from Mr. Bob Arum. And I'm going to fight his boy. So that could well happen. Arum has also said in recent weeks that he really feels obligated to make the Manny Pacquiao-Terrence Crawford fight. That's something Arum is still thinking about, because it's a passing of the torch fight. And Arum, as a businessman, knows, look, Pacquiao is on the way out. Crawford is on the ascendancy. He wants to pass that pay-per-view, you know, torch from Pacquiao to Crawford. That's what Arum's mind is thinking here, his business mind. You know, he sees more mileage in Crawford than there is in Pacquiao at this point. So he wants Crawford's pay-per-view star, his pay-per-view stock to be maybe not as high as Pacquiao's. Perhaps that's not realistic, but closer to Pacquiao's than it is right now going forward, because there'll be some longevity and more money to be made in Crawford in the long run. So, yeah, anyway, let me know what you think of this Terrence Crawford, Julius Indongo potential unification fight. How do you see the fight going? Do you give Indongo a good chance against Terrence Crawford? Julius Indongo is a big, tall, rangy guy. He can punch despite the fact he don't have a particularly high knockout ratio. We saw what he did to the Russian in winning the title, so he can bang. He's awkward, he's rangy, he's a good boxer. How would Terrence Crawford deal with him? I've actually seen Crawford, you know, struggle a little bit with tall, rangy boxers before. I remember when he fought Thomas Delorme, I thought that he gave away rounds in that fight. You know, he was being a little bit too careful. When he's fighting a shorter guy, a guy who's maybe not as quick as him, then yeah, he goes to town and he throws shots and whatever. But against a tall, rangy guy who can box with him, he can be a little cautious at times. Now, we know what he did to Victor Postal, and he did very well against Victor Postal, who's a tall, rangy guy. But he used his feet against Postal. You know, Postal didn't have the arm length, I don't believe, that Terrence Crawford had. He certainly didn't have the speed. And he got on his back foot and he made Postal come forward, which is something that Postal don't really like doing. Postal's a guy who likes to box in the middle of the ring, or he likes to box on his back foot. He don't really like coming forward. So he forced Postal to do something which he's not really accustomed to. Would he be able to do something similar to Julius Indongo? Or would it be more difficult because of the fact that Julius Indongo was more rangy, more gangly than a Victor Postal? I think he is. Anyway, I suspect that Julius Indongo's got longer arms than Victor Postal, so might be a bit more awkward, and he's a southpaw. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below, people. It's happening, I'm out.